Hello and welcome to the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord. I'm so excited. I get so thrilled when we get to do these shows, you guys, because I feel as your talk show bestie that we can get into topics that you might not be able to talk to everybody about. And also, I think that it's one of those moments where we can just pause from all the distractions in the world and just take a breath. And just check in, like, how are we doing really? And I think that's what this show is all about. We tackle topics all over the place, you guys. We talk about health and fitness, being a founder, entrepreneur, a business person. We love to talk about stories of faith and just beautiful inspiration to help you get through the wildness of our lives. I'm a working mama, I'm a busy girl, and I know that you are busy at your home or wherever you are. So I appreciate that you're here. Whether this is your first time or you're a reoccurring bestie of mine, I'm really thrilled to have you on the McCord List today. I am excited for today's episode. We are talking to the incredible author. You didn't know I was hiding this. I like snuck out like a little magician. The author of this book, Beating Endo, is Dr. Iris Karen Orbuch, and she is a surgeon. She is obviously an author, but she is also an absolute expert on the topic of endometriosis and how it is affecting so many people's lives. And we have silent sufferers who usually look for the answers for 10 to 20 years before they find out that there is a pathway to a more healthy, healed, and hopefully less painful life physically. But she doesn't stop there, because I know some of you might be like, oh, well, I don't have endometriosis. This is not for me. That is not the case. She has created Iris Wing Sanctuary for endometriosis surgery and wellness, and it is all about helping you heal from a holistic way to every part of your life. Her patients work with her nutritionist. They come into a peaceful, beautiful place where they talk about meditation and healing and transformation. So this book is for you, not just if you have endometriosis, but if you are a human being who might be suffering from something, from inflammation in your body or maybe an autoimmune disease. You want to hear from this woman. She is breaking records with what she is doing, talking about how to look at your health holistically as an MD, as a surgeon. She is incredible. She's very inspiring, and I love our conversation that we're about to have. And then one of my new close friends, Alistair. This is really fun. If you've been watching the show, you know that we had an episode where a $500 million dog, yes, that is correct, a dog that is worth $500 million, has his own content house here in California, and he is doing all the things with a bunch of amazing creators who are taking care of him. He's building his own brand, and it is so precious to see. One of our stars from that show, her name is Star. She is actually a good friend of Alistair, and so he is now on the show today talking about his life and entertainment, social media, growing up as an atheist, and how he found his way to faith by hitting rock bottom. His story is beautiful, it's inspirational, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to tear up a little bit with some of the things we're about to talk about. So I'm really excited you're here. Don't go anywhere. When we come back to the McCord List today, you are about to get inspired, encouraged, and hopefully a little pep in your step for wherever you're going today. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Rachel McCord. We'll be right back. And we're back on the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord, sitting down with Dr. Iris. Hello.
Hi.
You are incredible. Like, author, surgeon, you've created this beautiful Iris Wing Sanctuary for endometriosis surgery. Can you talk about the beginning of your career and how you got into this? I heard it includes a little video games. What?
Yeah, I was an avid, sports person. I was constantly playing all hand-eye coordination sports like basketball and lacrosse and volleyball, and loved playing video games, especially Super Mario Brothers as a kid, trying to save the princess. And I always felt like I wanted to be a physician and help people, and ended up doing OBGYN. And in my first year, I walked into the operating room where a surgeon was actually doing laparoscopic surgery for endometriosis. And I walked in, I'm like, this is where I belong. And I think it's the sports and the hand-eye coordinations and the video games that really, I had that proclivity to the surgery, and I just felt zen and at home. And I feel super passionate about helping those who are suffering too.
Wow. And you've spent most of your career talking about endometriosis with your book, of course, helping people process through this. I'm told that it is a condition that's not always easily diagnosed. So can you talk a little bit about what endometriosis is?
Sure. So it is so devastating because on average, patients go roughly about a decade from when symptoms begin until they're diagnosed. Typically, I actually see a 20-year diagnostic delay in my office. Symptoms range from patient to patient, and it's incorrectly thought of as like a menstrual disorder or period pain. But the symptoms can span from gynecological symptoms such as pelvic pain. The pain can be any time of the month. It can be before one's period, during one's period, after one's menses. It can be 17 days before a period. I mean, it doesn't have to be confined to a certain time frame. Some have heavy bleeding, some have clots, painful sex, either on entry or deeper penetration. And it's responsible for 40 to 50% of unexplained infertility. So that in and of itself is super devastating. What I see in my office is more so GI symptoms, like patients being diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome and never figuring out what the etiology of their constipation or diarrhea or alternating constipation and diarrhea, bloating, is from. Some have urological symptoms like, oh, I feel like I have to pee all the time, and the cultures are negative. But constitutionally, those suffering have extreme fatigue, extreme exhaustion, and they're just not living their lives to the fullest. And for me, it's a super easy diagnosis to make if I ask the right questions. But the way that it's taught in residency is, incorrectly thought of as a menstrual disorder. And it's so devastating to watch people not living their best lives and not living their lives to the fullest because of the effects of the disease.
Wow. Yeah. So let's go back for a few minutes. So you're saying it could happen kind of at any point during the month. What would trigger it? Or is there anything?
So there was a study of female fetuses that actually found, they did autopsies on female fetuses who had passed away, like maybe the mom was in a car accident and the fetus passed away. 9% of female fetuses had endometriosis. So there's either a genetic link, meaning it can come from the mom's side or the dad's side, or exposure in utero when the mom's pregnant with a fetus, exposure to different environmental things like dioxins, we know, which are byproducts of bleaching, can expose someone and then cause endometriosis. So we're born with endometriosis, and then usually people have symptoms at different times. Some have stomach aches as early as 5, 6 years old or a few years before starting their periods. Some people have just period pain. The problem is a lot of people go on the pill very early on just to prevent pregnancy, and the pill decreases the symptoms of the disease. However, the disease progression is continuing. So people aren't aware that they have painful periods or they have a whole host of symptoms until they go off of the pill for one reason or another, like they're not in a relationship or they want to try and have kids. So it can happen at any time of one's life, really.
Wow. And I heard you recently speaking on a podcast about how it actually gets worse over time. Mm-hmm. So the fact that there's a delay in diagnosis is actually pretty detrimental to people's lifestyle because it's an incurable disease. Is that correct?
It is super devastating. So it is incurable in the sense that, no, we can't get rid of it. However, we can really allow those who have it to live their lives to the fullest. And you're 100% right. Those who are diagnosed earlier, it's so much easier to get them better. And that's why I love all patients, but teens are my favorite patient population. So when I get last week I think I had a 12-year-old, or I get a 13-year-old or a 15-year-old, well, they're super scared and frightened to be in my office. I let them know how happy I am that they're going to learn about the disease, and there's less to undo their body from the inflammatory effects of the endo because there's been a shorter time that they've had the disease as compared to someone who has had that 10-year or 20-year diagnostic delay.
Wow. And you said it's very simple for you in your office to identify it. And I think that's really such a gift to so many people, of course, because you think about how many years you're struggling with something, and like it is very discouraging. Like when I for my heart surgery, like for 8 years I was like banging on doctors' doors and being like, something's not right, I can't walk upstairs, and they're like, oh, you're fine, you're fine. And so I think there's almost like for me personally, if I'm dealing with something that feels like it's a bigger thing or something that I don't know the track of getting the healing that I need, I think I don't even want to deal with it because I don't want to spend 5 years in tests, right? You can get kind of discouraged. I know this is terrible. Don't do this at home. Like don't do that. But like that's how I feel because I've just done the circle so many times. So are there is there some clarity you can give us on the types of questions that you're asking that might be different, or what someone at home who can't come to your office in California might be able to do?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so much that I want to share. And first of all, more than anything, because what you described in your journey is exactly what I see at my office every day, because there's something about a woman's intuition. We have such a strong intuition. And societally, it's like, let's beat that intuition down, like the witchiness of a woman, right? Like, let's not believe them. And with endometriosis, often imaging's normal. So doctors are very much like, oh, your imaging's normal, there's nothing wrong with you. So the questions that I ask my patients, the symptoms of endo, I always ask them, like, do you have any pain? Could it be before one's period, after one's period? Any painful sex? I ask them about all the gut issues, ask them about all the urological issues. I'm like, are you changing plans because of pain, or you're not living your life to the fullest? Because often it's a slow progression or downward dip for the symptoms. So a lot of patients just feel like, oh, it's normal that I sit on the toilet for 25 minutes. It's normal that I have to move around the toilet to have a bowel movement. It's normal I get up 4 times a night to urinate. It's normal that I'm curled up in a ball because my sister did that and my mom did that. Remember, I mentioned the genetic link. So everything seems normalized to patients. So what I want to beat down is believe your knowing and believe your pain and really find an endometriosis specialist. All I do is endo. I was trained in OBGYN. Every single thing I learned in my 4 years of OBGYN residency about endo was incorrect.
Wow.
Yeah, and I learned more in my first week of fellowship than I did in 4 years of medical school plus 4 years of residency. So most people are going to their general gynecologist or their mom's gynecologist to learn about endo. They have all outdated information. And then you go on with exactly kind of your experience, then you have to wrap in the medical trauma that I'm really big into, like unraveling all of that with my patients, because medical trauma causes even worsening pain as the central nervous system gets upregulated, and a lot of that pain is stored in our soma or our bodies. So there's just so much that I want to undo, and that's why I'll talk to anyone who wants to learn about endo. And my book, Beating Endo, How to Reclaim Your Life from Endometriosis, is such a guide to help patients, no matter where in the world you are, where in the country, to help advocate for yourself. So when you walk into that doctor's office, you can say, like, on page 37, it says da-da-da-da-da, and the doctor who's incorrectly trained is like, oh, I didn't know that's a sign of endo. So that's really why I wrote the book. Wow. Because I had an office in Soho, and I would have patients come in, they tell me their journey, 10, 20 years, and I had this gorgeous window overlooking Spring Street, and I wanted to put my fist through that window, and I'm not a violent human at all, I'm actually pretty chill, but it was so heartbreaking to hear what people were going through. So I wrote the book for you out there to advocate for yourself, wow, to believe and know and trust. Yeah.
Wow. That's incredible. I think it's beautiful that you talked about the nervous system, because I want to get into that with you next, because I think it's very important to be able to identify when you're struggling like holistically with your body. And I also love that you were talking about writing the book. It sounds like not just for the patient, but potentially for the doctor. So when we come back, we're going to get deeper into this conversation with Dr. Iris. Don't go anywhere on the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord. And we're back on the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord, sitting here with Dr. Iris. Wow. I mean, we are covering so much. We're talking about your book, Beating Endo, but it's all about reclaiming your life from endometriosis and how those painful symptoms that hold you back, keep you from going to work some days or spending time with your children, can actually do a lot to reclaim that for themselves. So can you talk a little bit about the holistic approach? So I look at it, and I love that you mentioned the nervous system, because I think that it is very common in today's society. You've got so much coming at you all the time, so much responsibility, so many distractions, known as notifications on your iPhone, and so many things. And it's just difficult to balance it all. But when you're balancing it with an illness, a difficult daily life as a result of something that people can't see on imaging, it must be so debilitating. So what can you speak to as far as like the holistic approach?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take a step back to move forward. So the endometriosis implants, or the endo lesions, they're pro-inflammatory. So what's happening is they're releasing all these inflammatory mediators throughout the body. So it's like an explosion of inflammation in one's body. And what that does is it puts the body in more of like a fight or flight or a sympathetic overdrive state. And our bodies, our adrenals are taxed. It's almost as if those who are suffering with endo or any chronic disease, but I'll specifically speak to endo, we feel like there's a bear chasing us. And the bear is literally like an inch behind us. And we're constantly trying to outrun the bear. We're outrunning the bear because of pain, inflammation, just not feeling well. And then obviously it takes a toll on our mental health because we're not living our lives to the fullest. So I look at patients from head to toe, and one of the first things I do is try and tune up their gut, because the gut is really the brain of the body, and there's so much gut-brain connection and sort of that intuition, right? Our intuition is coming from my gut is telling me to do this. And I'm always taking a look at people's gut. I'm evaluating them for SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is super common in endo patients. About 80% of endo patients have it, and it's probably most people with autoimmune diseases have it. Anyone who's had an episode of food poisoning probably has it. So it's an overgrowth in the small intestine, and then that causes the large intestine to have imbalances in the gut. It's kind of like, to use an Instagram term, leaky gut. So then the foods that we're eating, let's say we're eating gluten, for instance, which is super pro-inflammatory, that permeates through the bowel walls in the small intestine, and our body, like the gluten permeates through it, and our body starts to attack itself. So patients start to feel like, oh, I have sensitivities, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. I overhaul the gut in particular, additionally, because about 90 to 95% of serotonin comes from the gut. So, right, if someone's depressed, they go to a psychiatrist and they put them on an SSRI that's specifically for serotonin. I find by tuning up the gut, that can help so much with anxiety, depression, and just overall mood. So I take care of that, get all my patients to do a meditation challenge. Literally, this is what I'm a surgeon, I'm a fellowship trained surgeon, and this is what I talk to my patients about, and I give them a 6 weeks meditation challenge. I explain to them the concept of rewiring our brain and neuroplasticity, and I give them different options. I try to meet them where they're at. Some people are like, I can't sit still, I can't. I'm like, can you go for a walk without your phone? Can you stare at a tree? Everyone's in a different space, so I have to meet them where they're at. Give them the meditation challenge. Most of the time they have super tight pelvic floor muscles. With endo, the debilitating pain causes us to like curl up in a ball. So that causes the abs to be tight. People are constipated, they're like squeezing their pelvic floor muscles, or they're urinating a ton, they're squeezing their pelvic floor muscles, or they're having sex and it hurts, so they're responding with the squeezing. So I send my patients for pelvic floor PT, and then there's a bunch of other coexisting conditions that I'm evaluating for. If they saw a therapist once or they had trauma, I get them back into therapy. I talk to them about somatic therapy. Body keeps the score, and it depends where they're at, and then I can take people super duper far. But I think undoing the body of all of those things is paramount importance to, like with the surgery, excising endometriosis, which is the cornerstone of endo. But if we just do the surgery without undoing the negative effects that have been going on for 10 to 20 years, it's going to be hard to make them feel the best that they can feel.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense. And it sounds like it would probably be very helpful for those at home to maybe start to document specifically their symptoms, what are the onsets, are there triggers, and be mindful of that. I love that you mentioned the implications of having gluten, because I almost feel like talking to you, you're like the doctor everyone needs to know. You know, the surgeon, the doctor, all the things, because I feel like you're almost like in this, like, it's almost like the spine. You're like going all the way through your mind, your body, your physical, because I think that for so many of us, it can be so overwhelming, and you can almost go into the doctor's office and like your blood pressure rises. It's like the white coat syndrome, you know, and you're like, oh my goodness. But in this case, you're like, let's talk about meditation. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is phenomenal. How do your counterparts look at you?
So I'll just say, for the patients who walk in Iris Wings Sanctuary for Endometriosis Surgery and Wellness, when they walk through the door, I mean, we have crystals everywhere. We have spa-like music. It's a very tranquil state. And for many of my patients who are in that, oh my gosh, that bear is chasing me nonstop, when they walk through my door, they're like, something's different here. I've never experienced this state before. So it's the beginning of an awareness that they didn't realize they have, because many pain patients are somewhat dissociated from their body. That's how they're surviving from the pain. So they're not even embodied. So their journey with us is like from getting them embodied to healing the endo, to tuning up the gut, which will prevent autoimmune diseases, having them have a really robust, intimate life with their partners, and it's like helping them reclaim themselves. And I'm part of a surgical society, and I've been doing this for over 2 decades. And initially, when I wanted to bring a lot of this multidisciplinary approach, they did not want to hear it. And so be it. I continue to do what I know works, because I'm like an outside the box human. I think those who live in this box were never thinking I'm super curious. And now the societies are like, this does make sense. And there's an adoption, thank goodness, of a little bit of this. And even in medicine, because meditation's free. No one's making money off of meditation. So like, there's so many things that we can do to help heal ourselves. And like even my book, which this is for endo patients, if you get rid of the surgery chapter, this could apply to any autoimmune disease, because all autoimmune diseases are inflammatory. Most autoimmune diseases affect women, and most autoimmune diseases come from the gut and the imbalance in the bacteria in the gut. So by reclaiming everything from gut, mind, body, head to toe, we can really tune up our bodies in so many ways. So I think my colleagues are like, oh, I think this works, but I don't even know how to begin to implement it. This is a lifestyle I live. I live all of this. So, and I know it works. I have endo. This is what I did to help myself, to help one of my daughters, and it works. Wow. It really works.
When did you open the sanctuary?
We opened it in 2024.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you, that's going off on such a limb almost, like trusting yourself and building something that when you describe it, I'm like, okay, I am going to like, can I get an appointment please right away? I just feel like it's so what's needed. What would you like to see change in healthcare?
Oh my gosh. It needs to be revamped. It needs to be like discarded and revamped. I think listening to patients, I think being trauma informed, I think the godlike complex that is taught to physicians, why can't you say, I don't know what's causing your symptoms, but wow, it hurts my heart, you're suffering. I wish I could help you. I don't know where to send you, but I believe your symptoms. Like, why can't we be taught that in medical school? Instead, it's either a dismissal or I know what's wrong with you. And so I think we need to address more of like chronic illnesses, because our medical system is fantastic. If you have a heart attack, if you have sepsis, if you have something acute, we are so good at helping people. You need emergency surgery, gunshot, wow, we're there. But what's happening more and more in today's society, because of the chronic stresses like you alluded to earlier, our phones being nonstop, for those who are parents, working parents, or maybe even those who don't work, and and meeting the demands of this world. It's just moving so fast, coupled with the environment that we're living in, the food poisoning, the glyphosates in food, and all these things that are weighing down our ability to detoxify our body. I think we're like a train that's running out of steam. And I think whether someone has endo or not, treating from the gut out can really help people reclaim their lives, whether they have endo or not.
Yeah.
Because the world's so toxic right now. And beautiful, though.
Beautiful but toxic. Beautifully toxic. Isn't that like the girl that you always wanted in high school? She's beautiful, but she's toxic. Wait, so I have a question quick about food, because you did talk about that, and I've gone on multiple times going to the doctor trying to figure things out, and they've told me no gluten and no dairy, and so I've done those diets for. It's very difficult to do both. Now I'm gluten free, but what are your thoughts on dairy? Because it's so difficult my husband's been programmed by the pyramid of food, like son needs to have milk, and I'm like, I don't think so. Well, what are your thoughts?
I would say if I see that pyramid, give me a skeet ball and let me throw that pyramid and blow it up to pieces.
Yes.
It is not the way to be healthy.
Yeah.
I think it's hard to individualize it. It's hard to globally say what works, because what works for one doesn't work for another. I have my patients work with an integrative nutritionist who are literally looking at the population of bacteria in their large intestine, and then based on that are creating a plan to fix and to equilibrate the bacteria, so there's not too much of one and too little of another. So that's the best way to do it. I think for endo patients, gluten is really a big trigger. Dairy is a trigger. For some, it's soy. For some, it's eggs. But we also don't want to be limiting, because endo patients just feel limited. I can't do this. I can't do that. So by doing sort of an integrative gut mapping, we can open up foods that work for someone. I'm very much in how do we speak, rather than limiting, because otherwise people aren't going to be receptive to wanting to do something. But also from the gluten, I think that gluten in the US is just super processed. I'm in generally gluten-free, but if I go to Europe, I'll bring on the pasta, the pizza, I'll eat cheese in Europe, and I feel amazing. But here, I think it's laden with all the chemicals and the glyphosates and all of those things that are being sprayed on foods that people are reacting to personally. I just think clean, organic, more whole foods rather than boxed and processed is sort of the way to go. Shopping the perimeter of the supermarkets rather than the aisles, multicolors. Yeah.
So good. Can you please be the face of healthcare? Can we nominate you president of everything? Okay. In addition to getting your book, how else may our readers and listeners be able to actually get to know you and benefit from your practice coming through your sanctuary?
Sure. So we see patients from across the world. We do virtual consultations. Within the country, we have patients flying in all the time, and they just find flying to LA to be super duper healing. But I have an office. The phone number is 310-651-7333. You can find us on my website, which is lagyndr.com, and my Instagram handle is at Dr. Iris Karen Orbuch, DrIrisKerin and at Iris Swings. So either way, reach out to us. We would love to see patients. We really want to help people, and my staff is amazing. And yeah.
I can't wait to meet them. I'm literally going to come I want to come to the Healing Sanctuary. Thank you so much for being here today, Dr. Iris. And thank you so much for tuning in on the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord. Don't go anywhere, because Alistair is coming in next, and he's going to talk about his journey of life and entertainment, social media, and how he's found his path to faith and how it is healing him from head to toe. So can't wait to see you. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And we're back with the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord, sitting down with Alistair. Hi.
Hi.
I'm so excited you're here.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I really literally slipped into your DM in the most lovingly, holy way.
Yes. Yes.
I was like, I love this person. Come on my show. And I just love it. You do tons of viral social media content that is simply hilarious.
Thank you.
But I want to talk a little bit about how you got into social media, entertainment. So let's take it back. So you lived in LA forever. Are you from here?
So I grew up in Seattle,
Okay.
and right out of high school in 2019, I moved out to Los Angeles to pursue my dream. So in social media, acting, just all the things.
Yeah.
And it was fun at first. I went to college for about 3 weeks. It was like my only way I could get my family to say, okay, you can go out to LA on your own.
That's amazing.
And
3 weeks. It's
yeah.
like a U-turn.
3 weeks, I drop out and I join a content house where I'm there for 6 months. And yeah,
Wait, and this is so funny because you know one of our guests from our other show when we interviewed our $500 million dog, you know Star.
I do.
Who's living in that content house. Not the same content house? Is it a different one?
Different one.
Okay, so these content houses, man.
Yeah.
They're just popping up everywhere. So when did you move into the content house? Was it like, are you still there right now?
No.
Okay, we're done with those 6 months.
Yeah, we're done with that. That was
Forever. We're not doing that again.
never again. But it was 6 months. So 2019 kind of going into 2020.
Uh-huh.
So it was around that time. And
Okay.
it was
Got
fun.
real in
and
2020. I feel like something big happened. I can't remember.
yeah, huge things happened. And that was honestly, in 2020, that was the pivotal moment that led to my faith. So
Really?
a lot of things happened during that time.
Did you stay here in California? Did you go home at all?
I went home for 3 months.
3 months,
Actually,
okay.
yeah. Because basically, I was in the content house. Everything fell apart.
Wow.
We got stranded in Vegas.
What do you mean you got
A lot of
stranded in
crazy
Vegas?
stuff.
What happened?
Stuff with the management and all that. It was just
Oh.
weird money things and all that.
Okay.
And yeah, we were living in Woodland Hills. That's where our house was.
Okay.
Power got shut off, electricity, water, all of that. So it was like bad. It was like the last week or two living there, we had to like go to Starbucks if we wanted Wi-Fi or to charge our phones, literally.
Or to do content at all? Wait, why
Literally.
did it all get shut off? What happened?
Just problems in
No way.
the upper side of the management, I guess. Money was being stolen or something. So
Oh my gosh, no wonder you don't want another content
no,
house.
never. It's bad. Plus, I was in a house with like 15 people,
15
so
people.
it was crazy.
A lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, a lot.
Probably now that you're on a faith journey, you're probably spiritually like, well, there was probably a lot going on. I couldn't
Yeah.
see.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So it's like I'm grateful I met a lot of people during that time, which I still know to this day. But yeah, after that, stranded in Vegas, pretty much borderline homeless for a while, just Airbnb hopping, sleeping on couches, doing all this stuff. Like I have no money, no opportunities, nowhere to go. I'm like, I am screwed. Like it's not the best place to be. And yeah, and then COVID happened. That was amazing. And then my birthday is March 6th, 4 days after my grandfather died, who I'm super close with.
No.
And I was 3 days later was going back to Seattle to visit them. So it was like I was at a rock bottom moment. Worst time of my life.
Wow.
But through that, I started getting into reading books a lot. Because during those 3 months, I was with my grandmother, like helping her out with everything, getting things out of the house. And yeah, I got really into reading books. And my first book I read was How to Win Friends and Influence People, which
Okay.
was an amazing book. And that kind of started my journey to seek out wisdom in the world.
Yeah.
Because I was a bit ignorant in the past. So it was like, I just want to learn everything. So that was my pursuit. I read everything, psychology, philosophy, self-help, and that later led to me accepting Jesus, which, I grew up atheist. I never believed in God. I was like, I had to go to church with my grandparents occasionally, and I was like, I do not want to be here. I'm here for the donuts, and I'm here for the apple juice they got. That's it.
That's hilarious.
That is it.
Donuts drawing a lot lot of people. It's doing its job.
It's the
A little
best part.
sugar, a little gluten.
Yeah,
Draw you
right.
in, give you something that's going to sustain you.
Yeah, so other than that, I hated church. I hated everything about it. You say Jesus to me, I was like, just screw off, I wasn't into it. And
You wouldn't have liked me then. Because that's like my favorite word.
yeah, right? Yeah, for me
Like,
now.
get away from me, lady.
No, exactly. So I never liked it. And a lot of it too was seeing just a hypocrisy in the church and all that.
Yeah, that's real.
So for me, when I was seeking out all this knowledge, I was finding in that pursuit, all these successful people in these books I'm reading all believe in God. They all point to some higher being of where they get all their wisdom from. So I dove into a little more, and I'm studying different religions, different ideologies.
Wow.
And then being in Hollywood, I came to the realization all they do is condemn Jesus and Christianity, but nothing else.
Interesting.
So,
Whoa, okay, that just gave me chills. So you're saying that you were raised an atheist, and then you journeyed through your life, you kind of hit rock bottom, you started reading books, trying to change your life, which I really applaud you for, because some people could just double down on rock bottom and just build a little camp there, you know?
Yeah.
And you actually was like, I want to get out of this. So then you start reading all these books, you started seeing everyone was pointing to God or a higher being. Then being in Hollywood, you noticed that people were only dogging Christianity and Jesus.
exactly.
And that made you think there must be something there you're trying to keep me from.
Exactly. Because that's what I found about the world, is that the world always paints the truth, things that help you, is bad. And then everything that's bad for you, they glorify and
Like alcohol, like
make it
let's go
popular.
party like crazy.
Yeah,
And,
partying.
you know, it's just, I think it's, I mean, everyone's got to journey the way that they journey. I choose to not drink just from a health and life purpose. I never cared about it, so it wasn't like hard for me to like be like, I don't need something that's going to kill brain cells, especially now that we live in an era where I can get like yummy drinks like kombucha.
Oh, right.
Like, I don't need to drink. This tastes better. It's good for me in some ways, you know. But it is interesting that you're saying that, because I've never sat down with someone who was an atheist and came about understanding it from that perspective, because your thinking is going to be so different in that way. Okay, so tell me more. This is fascinating.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely my coming to faith was all logic based at first. Like that's all that it was, is like I'm trying to piece this together and understand it. So yeah, so I'm seeing the entertainment industry. They always, you know, you're watching a cartoon, you're watching a movie, it's always like the crazy Christian guy. Like in Simpsons, you have the neighbor, it's like, oh my gosh, Ned Flanders.
Put
Like,
down the Bible.
Yeah.
Stop. Yeah.
Exactly.
It always looks real embarrassing.
yeah, it's
I don't
like
wanna be a part of
the
that.
Christian's just insane. So I saw that, and I was like, it's weird because, you know, you don't hear anyone condemning Buddha or Muhammad, you know, nothing about Hinduism, Islam, or nothing.
Wow.
So I was like,
It had the reversed.
yeah, I was like,
effect on
why
you.
is that? Like, why only Christianity? And so I just dove into that more and tried to study it. And in 2022, God led me to move out to Florida, which at the time, you know, I just thought, shoot, I'm out of rent. This situation where I'm staying, we're getting evicted. So sure, I guess I'll move, because I was doing music at the time. And, you know, someone was like, hey, like, I'll invest in your music. And when I did that, they're like, oh, you can stay with me in Florida. So while I was in Florida, that's where I have my Jesus moment, basically.
It was your wilderness. Florida was your wilderness.
It was.
Whoa. So what happened?
Basically, in my pursuit of knowledge, it's crazy. I have it written down. 4 days, I believe, before I accepted Jesus, I ordered the King James Bible to study it. And yeah, August 23rd, 2022, I'm sitting there with my friend. They have their friend on the phone who's very spiritual and really close with God. And you know, they had me read through Romans, and basically just declaring, oh, Jesus is God, you know, all that. And at first, before they said it, I was like, I don't know about this Jesus guy. I'm like, yeah, I guess. You know, it's like if I say whatever it is you want me to say, nothing's going to change in my life. Crazy foreshadowing though.
Isn't that
But
funny?
but I was like, nothing's going to happen if I'm just saying these words if it's not true. So August 23rd, 2022, we're sitting there, and they're like reading Romans with me, and they're like, oh, just read it. They had me pulled up on my computer, and they're like, yo, just read this verse. And it's like, I believe Jesus is God. He died on the cross for my sins. He's real and all that. I think it's what the sinner's prayer as it goes. I say that, and just this presence, this warm, loving presence just fills my body. Like,
Chills.
I'm just crying tears of joy. I'm laughing hysterically. Like there's just this peace and love that just fills my body. And I'm like, what is going on? Like I'm just crying my eyes out, but laughing at the same time. I'm like, this makes no sense. What is happening? And they're like,
That sounds about right.
Right?
The neighbor on that show looked crazy.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, they're like, you just received the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
And that was quite a pivotal moment in my life.
I love that it feels like they almost tricked you into doing the sinner's prayer and it changed your life.
Yeah, right?
They're like, no, really, just read this. And you're like, what? Okay, whatever. What could happen? And then it's like, oh, and you're never.
Yeah, exactly. Holy Spirit enters.
Try that
and I'm
more.
like,
It's a great evangelistic tool. Hey, if it's not a big deal, just read these words.
Right. But the only reason it worked is because there was intention in my heart to actually give it a chance.
Yeah, the pursuit of truth.
Yeah, exactly. And it says in the Bible, those who seek me find me.
Yeah.
So I sought out God, and that's what happened. And then something that was wild, about a month later, so I'm like, I don't know if I still believe that happened.
You started to kind of get in the world and doubted a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of doubt about it.
The enemy's like, no,
yeah,
no, I've always had him. No.
Yeah, exactly, right? He had his grasp on me, but
Yeah.
Jesus set me free. Yeah, about a month later, I'm watching the show Loki on Disney, and I watched it, in the way that they like orchestrate that show about how, it's like the time god or whatever, like time always exists. Like it has this weird parallel to God, in that I was actually visualizing and understanding the omnipotence of God. And it was the first time I was like, I understand the idea of God always existing.
Yeah.
And how everything is kind of like looped in a way of, it's very like complex. But
Wow.
I'm watching this show, that same feeling when I accept Jesus hits me. And I'm like, what's going on? Just this, that love, that peace, I'm crying, that laughter. Actually, first, before that happened, I had fear come into my heart. It felt like I was seeing someone walk into my house.
Wow.
And I genuinely, like there was a presence there. Like when someone's opening the door to come in,
Yes.
that's exactly what it felt like. And there was a lot of fear.
Yeah.
But right as they were going to turn the corner into the living room, it was gone. And that feeling disappeared. And then that's when that love feeling came, that hit me. And I'm crying and I'm sitting there, and during that moment, I look up in front of me, and it's what feels like and looks like three spirits in my living room. Just like these three beings. It's like if you close your eyes and in full presence, you're in front of me. I feel your energy, like it's like I see your energy and all that.
Yeah.
But I'm not. You're not like a physical body, it's more just like you see the energy in the air, kind of like a heat wave.
Yeah.
So I'm just seeing these three figures in front of me, but this time they're pouring into me that understanding of follow Jesus, follow Christianity.
Wow.
And that rocked my world. I was like,
it's
this
rocking my
is
world.
weird. And I've never done a drug in my life, so I'm completely sober. I've never gotten drunk either. So
Wow, good for you.
thank you. But yeah, so it's like I can say that fully knowing there was not a substance in my body other than just pure joy and peace. I mean, that's really all it was. And
The holy substance.
Yeah, exactly. Fruits of the Spirit. That's all I had. And it really just shifted things in my life. And it was very gradual, because I was in Florida for a year and a half before I just moved back to LA about 2 years ago. And it was very gradual, but I started shifting. Everything in my life shifted. And I started leaving things behind. I was working on a song that I knew was going to do really well to the world. Completely cut it off. I stopped working on it. And I was like, I just want to live for God now. And then I started getting into making Christian content. I started focusing more on, I did one of the most amazing prayers. You say, God, remove everyone in my life that's not supposed to be in it.
So good.
And bring people into my life that are supposed to be in it. So I lost about everybody, like all these people, their true colors were revealing themselves to me, and they all left my life. And yeah, no, there is a huge transitional period of me becoming who I was, or me being who I was, shifting into who I am today.
Wow.
And yeah, ever since then, God has revealed himself to me in many ways and blessed my life. And, I have my ups and downs, but genuinely, God has changed my life in such an amazing way from how things were in the past.
Oh my goodness. Okay, you guys, when we come back, we are going to see one of the clips from his amazing viral content that's all about his faith. I am so excited. And I'm going to share a few things about me that you might not know. Okay, don't go anywhere on the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord. We'll be right back. And we're back with the McCord List today. I'm Rachel McCord. Oh my goodness, your story. It's so beautiful. I am just so touched by it on a million levels. Number one, today I was driving with my son, and my son literally asked me, God, he's like, oh, not God.
Hold on.
My son calls me God. You're like, suddenly, I gotta go.
Hold on.
One of those people.
I'm out of here. I'm out of here. Yeah.
Wow, okay, rein it back in. So he said, Mom, how does God hear me speak if he's all the way in heaven? And I was like, well, God is omnipotent, so he's everywhere. He's here with us in the car. And then you're talking about it today, and I was just thinking it's so interesting because if you reflect back on your life after you've been through traumatic times, spiritual times, awakening seasons, wilderness seasons, like all these big moments in your life, you can actually map all these connected points that are like, oh my gosh, like only God could have done these different things.
Oh, yeah.
And so I love that you say he's revealed himself so many times because I can totally relate with that. I feel like my entire life I've found myself, like I grew up in church. But I say church because I thought that that's what I was really raised in, but it really was not at all like a Christian lifestyle because I feel like it's hard in this world because sometimes we can just be accidentally led astray because we think that Christianity is this, right? And you mentioned that earlier, like having church hurt and then kind of being turned off by what you've heard and seen.
Yeah.
And for me, I grew up in a very controlled family, went through a lot of trauma, and I didn't really know like what was what, but I knew God was real. And so I did what a lot of people do when you live your life. I'm like, okay, well, we'll come back to that later on. But right now I'm like young and single. I'm gonna live my life.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like that. And I know for sure that God had his hand over my life because understanding scripture would tell me that. And I love that when you chose God, you had this presence. And to me, I think about something I heard one time by a pastor. He said, choosing the Lord is like walking through a doorway, choosing God and say, okay, you know what? I'm going to choose God, and walking through that doorway and then turning back and looking at the top of it and seeing above it say, chosen before I laid the foundation of the world. That you were actually chosen by God and God drew you in. And you think about the scripture. I was literally listening to it today with another one of those little jumps, right?
Yeah.
About how beautiful it is when you see that Jesus asked Peter, who does everyone say I am? Like on the streets, what are people saying about me, right? Like they say, well, some say you're Elijah, some say you're a prophet, some say you're John the Baptist, all the things. And he said, who do you say that I am? And I think about you talking about your friendships. It's like what matters is who the people around you know of you. Like who do you know who I am? Because if you know who I am, you're not going to ask me to go there. You're not going to ask me to do this because you know me. So he's like, who do you say I am? He said, you're the Son of God. And he said, wow, praise the Lord, basically, like, I'm paraphrasing. Sorry. Like, I don't have
my Bible.
You're tracking with me. I don't have a U version out. But basically, praise God, like, God revealed that to you. And the message is God had to draw you in because everybody's seen him. The Pharisees, Sadducees were seeing him, but they weren't seeing him. God had to reveal him to them. And then the next line, Jesus is talking about, it says after this discussion, Jesus was talking about how he was going to sacrifice his life. And then Peter says, no, Lord, like that'll never happen. Like that's not the thing. And then he says, depart from me, Satan. Like get behind me, Satan. You're not in the will of the Lord. And it's like, wow, that was like wild because you're thinking like we were just on a really good spot and then it turned so quick. And I was really moved by the conversation about how it was like, wow, the beautiful thing about that is that like Jesus wasn't really talking to him. He was actually talking to the enemy because the enemy was trying to use that relationship connection that Jesus had to Peter to get into Jesus's head and stop him from what he's trying to do. And I think about how many times in our lives we are so afraid to yield because we've grown up and we were like, oh, I don't want to get into all that because I don't want the regulation. Like that was for me, right? I was like, I'll come back to you when I've lived my life. Maybe when I'm married and it's easier to make great choices. I'm like in my crazy mind thinking this. But in reality, it's like it's never easy to make those choices if you look at it from that perspective. But if you shift your perspective and you say, actually, it saves me pain. It saves me hurt. It blesses my family because the generations, right? Like you think about the cost for children. And I look at it also as a parent, right? Thinking, well, it's easy for me to sit here and talk to somebody like the woman before you were in this chair. She's a surgeon. She's talking about health from the head to your toes, like your whole body. And it's easy to see how if I said to her, yeah, like, I'm just making all these choices, but I don't think it's going to impact my kids. She'd probably be, it probably is. Like if you're, just pulling your car over on the highway and getting out and like helping somebody else, you're probably putting your child in danger. It's easy to see that some choices impact your kids, impact the generations that are here after you.
Definitely.
But sometimes when you put faith in the middle of it, it's like, oh, that's the crazy faith side. Have you seen just in your own life as God's brought different people to you, Star, who came into my studio, are you seeing like a movement and a shift in entertainment in a faith way?
Yeah, definitely. And one thing I know too, in the entertainment industry, because I hear a lot of people say like, oh, it's such a corrupt, evil industry, Christians shouldn't be in it. And it's like, actually, Christians should be in it. And nowadays, there's more and more Christians being in entertainment because they're what brings the light into the industry. Because without them, the industry is very dark. So you need those people that are full of light. And, even people that don't believe in Jesus, they still carry that light because at the end of the day, we're still all under the same God. So, yeah, nowadays there's definitely a shift and people are starting to wake up to things happening in the world. And, we have all these crazy things happening on the news and all this stuff. And people are starting to wake up to it and be like, what is going on? Yeah. Like, I demand to know the truth. And so definitely in entertainment, I mean, even at the craziest point, it's like, there's people like Lil Nas X who pretended to be Jesus on a cross and mocking God being crucified again, mocking Jesus, nothing else. So it's like you're seeing these famous people do these things, and then a lot of people are like, whoa, hold on a sec, what's going on? Right. And a lot more people are coming to light about it. And I know Chris Pratt, he's Christian, and he's spoken about his faith more lately too. So it's like a lot of people are speaking out about it because everyone knows we need it. Like we're all in such a dark place in our lives. It's like even being Christian at times, I can fall into depression and anxiety and different things. And everyone in the world faces that. So it's like, how can I turn away from that? Yeah. And that's through God. And one thing I want to backtrack on earlier too about, rock bottom is that it's like when you fall and you hit rock bottom, as it says in the Bible, God is the rock of your foundation. So quite literally, when you hit rock bottom, you fall into God's hand. And that's why most people don't come to know God until they've endured suffering or some amount of being humbled in their life. Yeah. Because quite literally, you're falling into God's hand. That's what it is. Yeah. And you're being humbled enough to a point where you're like, I'm now in a position where I can hear the things that you're trying to tell me because I'm trying to grasp on anything that I can to get out of this hole.
Yeah. So. And it's interesting because you mentioned that, and then I think about the scripture verse that says it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to come to heaven. And that was like always such a overwhelmingly difficult scripture to read. You're still like, wait, what do you, and I think it's kind of leaning itself to what you're saying. It's like this thought that when you think you have it all, you don't reach out. And the problem is that so many times we find ourselves with everything that matters here. Like I had a show in Bloomberg, I had all these different things, and it doesn't fill you. And you think about, it doesn't, believing in God doesn't mean that you're not going to struggle, right? Exactly. The rain falls on the righteous and the unrighteous. The question is really about, okay, well, whose face are you staring at in the storm? Because you're going to hit a storm and you're going to find yourself in a difficult moment in life, even just being a human, you know? And I think you're talking about that too with entertainment. I'm seeing like a tidal wave of people in faith, in entertainment coming to faith and speaking out about it. I mean, Justin Bieber singing worship songs. I mean, it's like, looking back at like a specific mopping situation with Justin Bieber, you wouldn't imagine that suddenly he's living this life. And I love watching people step out with their faith, and then seeing the messiness of it, because it's kind of my favorite thing. Because I think that so many times we think, oh, like, if I'm going to say I'm a Christian, then I got to roll like this and do like this. Like, no, you just need to do only what the Father says to do, because that's what Jesus said, right? That's following him. Like, if he tells you to sit down with tax collectors, then you should do that. Obviously, modern times might be something different, because I mean, like, I probably do that very normally. They're probably at Craig's at the bar with me, you know, but in reality, it's like the question is like, God came for the sick, not for the well. So then who are we in those moments? Like you said, being a light, it's like, LA is a broadcast city. Like, it is a city where things that happen here are known about everywhere. And when I started the McCord List over a decade ago, I literally thought, I want to be a light in the darkness, and I want to help people who are struggling, maybe with self-worth, insecurity. And later on, I started realizing, well, these are really influential people that I'm helping, celebrities, influencers, creators, bloggers, all the things. So if they find healing, if they find like a great, beautiful light in their lives, then they're going to actually impact millions of people, because they have millions of people who follow them. And I love seeing stories like that. And I think that it's really important that we use our gifts to glorify God and to realize that it's all his anyway. So when we're afraid, like, oh no, like, what if I do this? And what if they call me the crazy neighbor? Well, that's okay, because if God closes a door, no one can open it. And if he opens it, no one can close it. So really, you're kind of living this life untethered to fear, because you're like, actually, I'm not doing it for you. And if the day comes that the door closes here, that's okay, because I know that God works all things together for good for those who love him and are called according to his purpose. So I think you kind of have to move with that, like, boldness in Christ, where you only, it says, don't fear people who can hurt you here. Fear the one who can decide where you go hereafter.
Yeah, exactly. You know, when you're saying the eye of the needle, something I really like about that point is, do you know, like, what the eye of the needle is?
No, but I sewed, so I imagined it was the really, really sharp tip. Am I wrong?
Basically, the eye of the needle was the entrance to the city. So the wealthy people would be riding on camels with all their bags of all of their, you know, precious stuff, all the things that they have. And so why it says that it's easier, you know, for like a poor person basically, than someone who's wealthy, is because the wealthy person would not get off their camel because of all this stuff that they have. They would not fit through that entranceway. So the whole underlying premise of why, you know, God is saying that is, it's like, you have to surrender and give up the things of this world to know me.
And that's what we're just saying right here. That's amazing.
Yeah. So
I love that I just said that to you, because it's such a weird verse for me to call out in an interview.
Yeah, right?
But it would make perfect sense. So he's saying you got to get off the camel, like Zacchaeus, right? Or like who was the guy? The rich man was like, oh, what do? I do all the right things. He's like, sell everything you own, give it to the poor, and follow me. He's like, yeah, can't do that.
Nope.
Can't get off that camel.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa, that's wild.
So yeah, that's what happened, you know, because God calls on all of us. It's like, at the end of the day, I can choose if you live tomorrow or not. Like, every time we wake up in the morning, God still has a purpose for us.
Yeah.
So it's like, if he's the orchestrator of our fate, and, you know, we have our own free will that goes with that, it's like, I'd rather put my trust in him, knowing he can provide for me everything under the sun. But something I really love is Solomon in the Old Testament, because he's, you know, he asked God for wisdom. God gave him all the wisdom in the world, and then he gave him all the riches in the world. So he's the most wealthy. And I always pronounce this wrong. What is it? Ecclesiastes?
Oh, Ecclesiastes?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I say it wrong
I love
every
you
time.
so much. I say everything wrong. I just pray that they hear it right.
Yeah, right. So in there, Solomon is having these journal entries, and he's talking about, oh, you know, I have all this money, I have all these things like things are so good. And then he begins to realize as he's writing this in his journal pretty much, none of this is fulfilling me. And he's like, there's nothing under the sun truly that I'm gaining from this, because he's like, I have all this money, I have all these things, but I'm still sad, still depressed. And then there's this shift where then he realizes, oh, but I need God. And that's like a point you said earlier, is we all have a God-sized hole in our heart, and we try to fulfill it with, whether it's sex, money, drugs, alcohol, opportunities. And we always have these things, and it might be like temporary satisfaction or happiness, but for long-lasting joy, I mean, it leaves us instantly.
Yeah.
But Jesus, because he is God, he is that like key, or that kind of like that bandage that fully mends that wound in our heart. So it's like once you have Jesus in your life, you have everything that you need, and all of those things come.
So good and so true. It's really wild because I love that you said the opportunities, because I think that's the biggest issue that our generation is dealing with right now. It's like the grind culture, the push. It's like, actually, I can do less and just trust God and be like, God, where do you want me to go? Because I can call 50 people and they say no. And God tells me call this one person and they're like, yes, and here you go. I mean, it happens all. I do it with shows.
Exactly.
Honestly, when I book my show, I'm like, God, who should I interview? And then they'll pop in my mind, or they'll pop in my inbox. Or I'm like, okay, great. And it's so hilarious because, like, I never lived my life like that. My husband would call me a type AAA, like hardcore, like assertive. I was a terrible leader because I was like a leader who was like meticulous. And I mean, the world standard, I was probably a really good leader because I got things done. I got people to get things done. I was like that. But like, I wasn't happy. I was a miserable person to work for. It's like not funny. It's terrible. But actually, it's really wild because all the time I thought that I was a believer because I was just raised in the church and I believed in God. And then later on, I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I read the Bible 7 times through as a kid. Like, yeah, I got this. We're good. And then this is really wild, but I had booked a flight to come home to Georgia, where I'm from, and booked the flight. Literally, Southwest confirmation page pops up. I get a text message from another Rachel. Great name. I'm a big fan of it. Try it at home. And I look at my text, and she's like, hey, any chance you're going to be in Atlanta these days? And I'm like, yeah, it's super freaking weird. Like, are you in here?
Right.
I was like, yeah. I almost felt like she caught me. You know what I mean? If I wasn't going to go, I was going to admit. I was like, yeah, actually, I just booked it for my grandma's 80th birthday. And she was like, oh, well, I'm having this little gift together. This woman named Rachel. I'm like, so I'm one Rachel. She's another Rachel. She's talking about another Rachel. I'm like, how many Rachels are in this room? It's a Southern name, I guess.
Yeah.
So she's like, she's going to be sharing her story. It's really beautiful. You should come. And I was like, okay, thank you. And then, a couple weeks go by, she follows up. This woman is the queen of follow-up, by the way. Like, I think it's her follow-up that got me to real faith.
Yeah.
So she follows, oh, yeah, sorry. Okay, cool. Then follows up again. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I have a family dinner planned that night. I was going to Provino's, which if you're in the South, this is the best food. They have these little garlic balls, like bread. I mean, if I ate gluten, you know what I mean? Like, we could be best friends with that. I'm like, give me all the balls. So,
Pause.
Okay, balls. That was, yeah. Okay, cool. Anyway, so I'm obsessed with it. So I'm like, oh, well, we'll see, And then I was like, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do the LA pop through. Like, I'm going to come by with my fake eyelashes, high pony, over the knee boots, like pop in, mwah, mwah, kiss, kiss. Okay, goodbye. So it's not that scene. I show up, everyone's wearing like church vests. I'm like, okay. First of all, I didn't get that memo that it's like everyone's cute and like Southern like gathering, There's like all this food and I'm like, oh my goodness, like I got to do the like the small talk. I suck at small talk. I'm like, I want to hear your problems. I don't want to talk about anything. Like I can't be like, so tell me, like as I stir my tea, like tell me something I'm not going to remember and I don't care about and I'm really bad at engaging with, right? So anyway, we do this, and I'm like, okay, let me just sneak out. But I was like, oh, well, I guess I should sit down for the beginning. This woman starts playing this, like, song, and she's like, I've just dealt with a lot of challenges with my father. And I was like, all of a sudden, I felt like a spotlight turned on me. I was like,
what? I walk out of this?
Yeah. And she goes, and I wrote this song because I traveled a lot, and I just feel like she said something about how travelers are the most, they're happy because they're going everywhere. She's like, but they're the most, they're the most tired or weary. It was weary. She's like, they're the most weary. And it was like this thought popped in my head, and I was like, I am so weary. Oh my gosh. It was almost like I couldn't even hear her talk because I just kept thinking, I'm so effing weary. Like I just was like saying, and so she's talking about this relationship with her dad. And of course, like I've had my own stuff. And I'm like, I'm just sitting there and I'm like jaw to the floor. Then the Rachel comes up. She shares her story. Meanwhile, my husband had planned on meeting me and picking me up in an Uber from there to take me to the dinner. Okay. So then the other Rachel, she shares her story, and I'm totally rocked by her story. She's talking about how she's been widowed twice. Okay. I'm sorry. Like, I've been through a lot of trauma in my life, but I couldn't even understand. She's like, we had just gotten married, and a year later, he's like drops dead on a basketball court. And I'm like,
wow.
And the second one, she's got kids, and he was in the military, and the sergeant came, and he's like got his head up, and she looked out the window, and she saw, and she's like, no. She's like, no, not this time, because I have kids this time. And she's like sharing this story, and I'm just like totally rocked, like hearing this pain, and then seeing the glow and the joy in her heart when she's talking about how Jesus has saved her life. And I'm just like, whoa, I don't have Jesus like that. Like, you know, like that's a different kind of Jesus. I have like the lukewarm, like, I'll go to church on Easter and not feel dirty, like kind of Jesus. I didn't have like that kind of where she's just like boldly talking about, I didn't even talk about my faith because I was really nervous. So then they're like, does anyone want prayer? And I'm like, sprinting to the back, you know what I mean? They go in this room. I was the first one there because I'm sprinting. No one else is sprinting. Yeah. And there's like 5 ladies. They all come in. They're all prophetic. I didn't know anything about the prophetic spiritual conversation. So I was really like, new to all of the things. So I go in the room and I was like, yeah. And I just like word vomit everything I'd been through. And it was real dark past, real hard stuff to process. And they all look at me, and then they look at this one woman with this beautiful white hair named Molly Ann. And they're like, Molly Ann's got you. And I was like, okay. Like, you're above our big.
Yeah, we're not spiritually equipped for this one.
I don't want what's attached to you, girl. Like, I'm not trying to get in the middle of all that. No, like, I think they were just like, okay. They go out. She starts praying over me. I have this crazy Jesus encounter. I literally saw Jesus, but I was like in a garden. And I was like, I saw the still water. I mean, all the things. Like, I could paint you this picture if I knew how to paint. Like, I know it vividly. And I was completely rocked. Like, I was just like, God, please heal me. Like, I've been chasing it since I was 12, reading 1,000 self-help books, all the therapy, all the things, like, all of it. Like, I'm done. I'm so done. Please help me. And I literally just cried it all out. And I was filled with this joy. Like, that just filled me to my toes. Like, I was so happy, and I felt like I had taken all this mess to the right person finally, and I'd taken it to a residential treatment my first year of marriage for 30 days. I had taken it to therapists, like the guy who trained everybody for the psychology department at UCLA. I had taken it to the altar. I'd taken it to pastors, but I had never just taken it to Jesus. Like, me to him, I am a disaster. But I had even gone to Israel, I remember, and like laid on the marble where they wrapped his body. Like, Jesus, please heal me. So in a way, it was almost like I had, but I hadn't. And I kept on trying to find it. But it was like that was the moment. And I believe that God really does work all things together for good, because even though I'd asked for healing and tried to find healing before, like, God knows when you need it, how you need to receive it, and when it's going to make the biggest impact for you and the world around you and your kids and everything. And I feel like maybe it wouldn't have settled in for me somehow or something. But all I know is that when I got out of this prayer session, I had fake eyelashes on my ankle. I'm not kidding. I cried it all the way to Journey. That little eyelash had gone on a journey.
Oh my goodness.
I know you never had this problem. But you would have had it if you had fake eyelashes on that day when you read Romans. So I'm glad you didn't, because it was kind of embarrassing in a funny way. Yeah. But I look at my phone, I got like 30 missed calls. Rick is outside in an Uber, just driving up the bill, trying to take me to this dinner that I've totally blown through. It's not like 10 o'clock at night. Rick, I get in the car, and Rick's like, and I'm like, it's okay. Everything. I was like so elated and filled with joy. And I wasn't the same. The next day I was like trying to help my Uber driver find the Lord.
Right, yeah. No,
It
it's
flows
great.
out of you, and you're just not the same.
It does. It really does. Yeah. I mean, I've been blessed with so many opportunities in my life where I've been in an Uber or I've been at some event or on set acting, and I just talk with someone about God for a long time, and there's definitely a shift. So
The shift.
I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so where can everyone follow your content and like laugh their eyes out watching your hilarious viral videos about faith and
Yeah,
all the things?
yeah.
Like, what are you up to? What's happening? Tell us.
I mean, I mainly post on Instagram. Just, Alistair Bruback is the page, ALISTARBRUBACK, and that's mainly where things go down is on my Instagram. But I post on all platforms, so
Wow.
Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all
Oh
the
my
things.
gosh. I cannot wait to see all the things you do. This is like open invitation. Anytime you want to come back to the little
Oh,
McCorless
thank you.
situation, you come back in. Thank you so much for coming in. This is
Oh,
amazing.
thank you so much.
And
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your story. It's so beautiful, and I think it'll be very impactful for so many people because I think it's interesting. All of our journeys are so wayward and so wild, but then we find our way, and I think that there's a lot of hope at the end of that. Wherever you are and whatever you've been through, it's like there's hope for you.
Yeah. God is good. That's for sure. And everyone needs to put their faith in Jesus at the end of the day. Literally. We all need him.
We do. Thank you so much.
Thank
And
you.
thank you guys so much for tuning in to the McCordless today. I'm Rachel McCord. I'm so happy we had you. I cannot wait for our next show, but this one I'm going to need to just sit in for a while because it was special. I'll see you next time. Mwah.